Welcome, everyone, to the Everything Show. I am your host, Matrix Lord 212, and I'm with Chris. What's up, Chris?
What's up, guys?
What's up, Vaughn?
What's up?
All right, Chris, so what are we starting with?
So we were talking about this off air a little bit before, and we kind of figured that we could expand upon it a bit more because, there's only so much you can talk about in a Facebook Messenger. But so Laura Dern, I guess, gave an interview today, or I think maybe it was yesterday or today, where she said that she believes that Admiral Holdo, her character in Star Wars The Last Jedi, may have been Force sensitive. And apparently, she had spoken about this with both Rian Johnson, who was, of course, the director of The Last Jedi, and Kathleen Kennedy, who's in charge of Lucasfilm now at Disney. She was involved in it before Disney took over, but she's basically in charge of all of this stuff. And they said that they believe the same thing, that Admiral Holdo is Force sensitive. Now, nowhere is this addressed in The Last Jedi, as far as I know.
Nowhere.
And Admiral Holdo was in a novel where it talked about her when she was younger. And I haven't read that novel myself, but I never remember hearing anything pertaining to the idea that she was Force sensitive. So my opinion is she's not Force sensitive until the story group says she is.
Right. And
I really don't see a reason to make her Force sensitive because she's dead. Now. This to me is more like something that you would talk about before the movie or show in the movie as kind of like a surprise. But now, I mean, unless they're planning to do a comic book series or another novel or something, maybe she shows up in Forces of Destiny, I'm going to say that she's probably not Force sensitive until we actually hear it from either the story group or we see it in some form of canon media.
Right.
Going forward.
I'm going to say that originally when I saw the article, it didn't say anything towards the effect of Rian Johnson or Kennedy. It was like a teaser article about it. Then we got more articles that had expanded where she started mentioning Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy, and I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell? Which kind of prompted me to talk to Chris about it. I'm like, dude, what the hell is this?
God.
Like when you hear that Rian Johnson said, yeah, okay, and Kennedy, I'm like, oh, it's effing canon. Now, so then I started thinking too with Chris, and I'm like, Chris, could it be possible that there are people out there, right, that look at the Jedi as a flawed organization, and they do stuff with the Force too, but they don't have lightsabers, they don't fight, they maybe use the Force in different ways, or maybe they do fight with it, but not with lightsabers, a different type of, and Chris was telling me, right, Chris? You said there is like stuff like that, right?
So it even if you don't consider the old canon to what George Lucas said, because we know that he only considered 1 through 6, the movies canon, he considered Clone Wars canon for a time. I believe he considered the original Star Wars, the Clone Wars, or Star Wars Clone Wars. I almost said animated. They're both animated, but the original one, the ones that like 3 minutes and then 15 minutes long. I believe he considered those canon for a little while. But no matter what canon you look at, including the new one, it has never just been Jedi and Sith. There has always been some group or groups in the middle that do exactly what you just said, basically. They look at the Jedi and they go, no. And they look at the Sith and they go, probably not. Some of them want to be Sith, but they can't because there's only 2. There can only be 2. And some of them want to be Jedi, but either the Jedi Order didn't find them or for some reason didn't accept them or they were expelled from the Order or something like that.
Now, I just want to elaborate on something before we go further. The Sith originally, there was more than 2. There was more than just 2.
In the old canon, and it's being alluded to in this one, that there was a whole empire.
Right,
Sith,
and then it changed because of someone in power that made that rule.
So now, Darth Bane made that rule. He saw that the Sith were being destructive when there were too many. So he said, Well, originally it was Darth Revan who came up with the idea.
Right.
But Darth Bane was the one who actually put it into effect. There can only be 2 Sith, and it went from there.
Right. Now, here's the thing. They established Jedi, they established Sith. So with the original trip, with Star Wars: A New Hope, Empire, and Jedi, you would not believe that there's anything else other than that. Then we saw the prequels, and Yoda's these 2 there are, Master and Apprentice, right? But then he also said with the Jedi, there can only be a Padawan learner and a Jedi Knight, right? And then whatever that thing is, which contradicted it because Yoda's training everybody in the school, which didn't make any sense. So, but we're saying, well, if there's set rules that you can't go beyond that, then why the hell is Dooku training Grievous? Why the hell is this going on? So the problem with that is they created these rules, but then they break these rules or go around these rules, or there's a technicality, whatever. Nobody wants to follow the rules. And it's like all these different things, and oh my God, Anakin had a freaking Padawan, and all this crap. Mm-hmm. So the whole point is that now, just like Last Jedi, Luke said that he didn't agree with the Jedi teachings. Technically, Rey could create new rules for new Jedi that are totally ridiculous and not even resembling, just like someone could create new Sith and not go by the rule of 2. Just make their own rule, because anything goes at this point, right, Chris?
Yes. And I'll go you one further on. I'll go you one further on that when you brought up A New Hope and whatnot. If you go back and watch them, not once do they ever say the word Sith.
Yeah.
So there really were no Sith in 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
If you want to believe that, when they first came out, there were no the Sith was kind of a thing, but they didn't get mentioned in the movie, as far as I remember. It wasn't until 1, 2, and 3 that Lucas was like, Sith, Sith, Sith. That's who the bad guys are. They didn't mention it in the movie, but when it came to somewhere, maybe be a stupid thing like the records, or the novel, or even a toy, it would say Darth Vader, something of the Sith or something. Right.
You're what the hell is a Sith? And then you would be expecting them to elaborate. Nobody elaborates.
Basically, yeah. So here's the thing, though, too. Rey, it's kind of like what you're saying. Rey could make a new Jedi Order, right? Now, if you go back to the old canon, or Legends canon now, Luke made his new Jedi Order after Return of the Jedi. But he did not follow all of the rules that the Jedi Order that came before set forth.
Right.
So this isn't really a new idea. It's Luke definitely changed some things, which is good, because the Jedi Order that was around during episodes 1, 2, and 3, and before that, completely flawed. They bend to the will. They didn't follow the Force. They went with the will of the Republic and whatnot, and it was really just, they were a mess.
They lost their way.
Yeah. So
even with Yoda, everything was lost. Yeah.
Exactly. So Kylo Ren, for example, kind of going back to what you said, he could make a new order of dark side users, but he could totally be like, "Listen, I'm in charge. There is no rule of 2."
Yeah.
So it won't be the Sith Order that came before, but it would be something new, and they may not
Knights
call
of
themselves
Ren,
Sith.
or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. They can call themselves the Knights of Ren. They could call themselves anything they want. Even in the old canon, after Vader and Palpatine died, there were things called one Sith and all of these things that.
Now the Knights of Ren is something that he created after himself, right? Or no?
We don't know. That's the thing. We have no idea how exactly they came about. There are ideas about how they came about, but we don't know we don't know how they actually formed.
Now, are they actually clones, or are they just different people?
Well, we don't know.
Because he's mentioned the thing about clones, maybe he dabbles in it or something.
Well, the prevailing theory right now is that they are the students that Luke mentioned he left with, because in that flashback scene, he says he left with a handful of my students, and he killed the rest. So what happened to that handful of students?
So they're they were Jedi, and now
they were training to be Jedi. Yeah.
Okay.
But what happened to them? I personally think they became the Knights of Ren. But
they're not like Red Eyes and Dark Side and all that crap.
I don't even know if they're going to do that anymore, because that's a really inconsistent idea with the whole eyes changing and whatnot.
Yeah.
I would like if they did, because I personally like it. I think it's a cool touch, but, I mean, who knows?
What do you think, Vaughn, with all this stuff?
I think it's one big mess, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I think that they need to, if it's going to be canon, they need a rule book on what's canon, what's not canon. You can't have an actor come in and say something is there when it's not been implemented into the storyline at all. And all of this is just a mess.
You know what it is? When we had New Hope, Empire, and Jedi, it was very simple. You know?
Yeah.
There's Jedi, and then there's people that are not Jedi. You know, it's like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point is that I feel when you start throwing the rules out the window, then it's less likely to be more fun or like it, because then why even have rules in the first place? So, like, you have to have rules, because then you have to build up on it. You know, when just like in Doctor Who, when they broke the rules, we were pissed off about that.
Yeah.
But none of the only thing I disagree with there is that none of the rules are being broken here. If you look at the way the story's being told now, it's still the Jedi, but in place of the Sith, it's the Knights of Ren / the First Order. So they're your good guys. But
it's not the Jedi, because Leia is not a Jedi.
No, but Rey is training to be a Jedi.
Right, and then
Luke is kind of a Jedi. So I mean, it's it's there. It's still somewhat black.
Well, he was a Jedi Master, and now he's just I don't know what he is.
I personally call him a gray Jedi. That's just my tie. I know that's not canon, but that's how else do you describe that? You know, but the Holdo being Force sensitive, if she is, does not break any of the rules, because anybody can be Force sensitive. You have no idea who's Force sensitive and who's not.
Well, let me ask you a question. Maybe that'll be an easier question. It might be a controversial question. Do you think, even though you liked Last Jedi, like you loved it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that it would be easier to erase it from history, or do you think it causes more problems, or do you think it's okay just existing in general?
I think if they erased it, it would absolutely cause more problems.
Really?
To the T, because it's in line with the story that they're trying to tell. And I think this is something that a lot of people are missing. Like, when they heard episodes 7, 8, and 9 were being made, immediately people were like, oh, it's going to be a story about Luke, it's going to be about Leia, it's going to be about Han, right? Mm-hmm. But what they're telling is the tail end of their stories. That 32-year gap between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, that's where those stories are that they want to see. That's where, like, the pseudo-Legends canon could be. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be the same thing, but that's where those stories take place. I think what a lot of people are having a hard time with is it's 32 years later. Your characters that you remember from 4, 5, and 6, they all got older.
See, I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way.
That's not an opinion, though. That's a fact.
Yeah. No. What I see it as, though, is that I understand that they're older. I accepted The Force Awakens. I didn't agree with it, like, all right, Han was separated from Leia for a while, and Luke is over here. But I accepted Force Awakens, and I love Force Awakens, actually. What I didn't accept was the fact that I felt there's a contradiction between Force Awakens and Last Jedi, because they make this whole thing like this quest and this map and finding Luke, and then, like, he don't even know anybody's coming. He didn't know people, like, whatever, and he's like, what the hell? And he throws the lightsaber, like, I'm not training anybody, and, like, whatever. And it's like, I just found that, I don't want to go into details about it too much, that, you know, because we did this already, but I just felt there was inconsistencies with the plan. Like, George Lucas had a plan, you know, and he made these 3 movies. And then he had a plan with the prequels, and he made these 3 movies. This seems like they're making it up as they go along. In fact, J.J. Abrams admitted that they're making it up as they go along, which is not really... But
they're not, though. Like, that's
not everything.
Wrong.
Not everything, but the most stuff they are. And I think the problem is that we're going with... We're used to having a flow. and not that has to be predictable, but we're like, all right, Rey's going to Luke. He's going to train her. This is going to be fantastic. And then when we get Rian Johnson's vision, it's like, oh, he's washed up and he's this, and he don't care about running to the Resistance saving him. And it's just like he's depressed and disgruntled. And the whole thing is like, people don't want to see someone's depressed and like reality. You go to the movies to escape, and you would never envision your hero to be this. So I think maybe that's why I was kind of really disappointed, because I'm like, oh, you know.
But let me just say, like, if Lucas had made these movies, this is what they were going to be. If you look at his plans in the visual dictionary, that they have the artwork of what he was planning to do for these movies, there was going to be a girl named Kira who went to find Luke, who isolated himself on another planet because he was fed up with the way things were going on in the galaxy.
But he wasn't going to die in Episode 8.
We don't know that.
We do that because Mark Hamill revealed that he was definitely going to die in Episode 9, according to George Lucas.
But you got to remember, though, this is Mark Hamill saying that. We don't even know if he actually saw the plans.
So you mean he's making it up?
As far as we know. He probably talked to Lucas one day, and Lucas was like, yeah, I was planning on doing it in 9. But do we know that would have happened?
So
no.
What is so then I have to ask you this question. What the hell is happening with Mark Hamill? Where 1 minute we think he's against the movie, then he's for the movie, then he keeps saying different things. He's against the movie again, but then he wants to be alive. He's not alive. He don't want to be a ghost. That's not Luke. What is the real story here?
So this is what happened, right? When he said that he didn't agree with what Rian Johnson did with Luke, he never said that he was against the movie. He said he just didn't think that this was the way that Luke would be later on. He envisioned Luke another way, which, by the way, he said once he wanted Luke to turn to the dark side and basically kill everybody.
No, I don't want that.
No.
Yeah, no, definitely
this
not.
was his idea. He was like, I want Luke to turn to the dark side and be like worse than Vader. And I was like, no,
God,
Mark, no, Mark. So
that's why you're an actor and you're not a writer. Well, okay.
Exactly. Like I can understand actors getting into the role and somewhat dictating their future or how they act. But when you start saying things like that, it's like, I don't think you get the character.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you understand.
It's like one of the kids on the playground. Wouldn't it be cool?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, it wouldn't. And that's why I'm glad you're not in charge of it, because oh my God.
Basically, going back to what I was saying, he said that he didn't agree, and as soon as he said that, all these media outlets were like, he hates the movie! He was like, no, I don't hate the movie. He's like, I don't hate it. I just didn't think this is the way Luke would go.
So
it's not just that, though. You zoom into his face, and it looks like you killed his cat. It was like he's at the premiere. He's like, it was like, wow.
So basically, they took a phrase and then spun it the way they wanted to spend it.
Yes. Basically.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that's entirely true, though, because look at his face. Did you see, like, half the times he was like, it looked like he was, in these interviews that he did, it's like, that's not Luke. That's like Luke's uncle or some shit. Or
but
whatever.
if you listen to what he said to people after he had said that, he said, I didn't agree with it. Then I spoke to Rian Johnson and I realized what he was doing.
Oh, okay.
So they always leave that out because it doesn't fit their narrative that they're trying to tell, especially now.
But he don't want to be dead, though. He don't want to be dead, though.
Well, but that's not his place to say that. He's not the writer. If he was the writer, he could. Hey, I'm not going to kill Luke off. But just because you don't agree with something that your character does or something that happens to your character, if you're the actor, unfortunately, you don't get a lot to say.
Well, let's just look at it from a different side now, right? Let's look at it from the toy side and Hasbro side. Hasbro announced that the Star Wars sales for the figures of Last Jedi was like in the toilet.
Well, let me explain why.
Okay.
Because I think they're leaving this, my friend is an avid collector of these Star Wars figures. He was telling me about the waves of figures.
Right.
They all suck.
Okay.
The way that Hasbro handled this one was absolutely terrible.
So all of a sudden they know how to do figures, and now they don't know how to do figures anymore. Somebody who's in charge.
This isn't new. When I used to collect Transformers figures, like when Dark of the Moon came out, it was absolutely abysmal. The things that they sold and the stuff that they made. But Revenge of the Fallen was fantastic. And that was a couple of years beforehand.
Right.
So it's like they don't always know what they're doing, Hasbro. And we can look at another thing. The DVD sales are apparently going through the roof.
Okay.
It's sold out on Amazon or something like that in like a day. So, you can look at that from a bunch of different avenues. But getting back to what we were talking about originally, Admiral Holdo being force sensitive, if she is or if she isn't, either way, it doesn't really break any of the rules or anything like that. And nobody should be too upset by it because it really doesn't matter anymore.
And they're not going to mention it anyway.
Most likely not. So what probably would have happened is if she was born, I'm going into the universe of the movie now. If she was born during the time of the Republic, the Jedi probably would have detected that she was force sensitive, went to her parents and said, let us take your daughter, we'll train her as a Jedi. And her parents would have said yes or no. If they said no, that's the end of it. If they said yes, she would have been brought to the temple, trained as a Jedi, and whatever would have happened, happened. Mm-hmm. But now, because there is no Jedi, there's no Jedi temple, there's no nothing, she slipped through the cracks. Just like the kid with the broom at the end of the movie, he's force sensitive. They would have picked him up if there was a Jedi Order, but there's not. So there could be hundreds of thousands of people in the galaxy, millions, billions, that are force sensitive. But either they don't know, or they know and they don't know what to do.
And the Jedi would want to pick them up because then they could become evil.
Potentially.
Which you don't have anybody picking up the evil people or making them evil right now
either. Go.
Unless you have Kylo Ren doing it as Knights of Ren.
Which is possible.
Yeah, we don't know.
Because the Emperor used to do that. He used to find kids that were force sensitive and he would train them into Inquisitors. Or not him, he would have them trained into
So that would be the excuse that they would be Inquisitors but not Sith because of Rule 2.
Yeah. So like Grievous, like you had mentioned before, Grievous, Asajj Ventress, even Maul to a point. Grievous and Ventress were never considered Sith. Grievous was the leader of the droid army. Asajj Ventress was a Sith assassin till she defected. Even Darth Maul, in the old canon, Plagueis was training Sidious, Palpatine. And Palpatine found Maul. And he told Plagueis about him, and Plagueis was like, he can't be a Sith, but he could be a Sith assassin.
I thought Darth Maul was his apprentice.
Darth Maul is Palpatine's apprentice. But when Palpatine killed Plagueis,
yeah,
Maul became a Sith.
Gotcha.
9 minutes.
All right. I got you. So now we're going to have, what exactly is Abrams going to do? Do we know?
Well, I'm very worried about 9.
Really?
Because I was worried about 9 even when Trevorrow was.
Oh, God.
Actually, to be honest with you, I was more worried about it when he was in charge. I'm less worried about it now, but I'm still worried because I don't know what Abrams is going to do, and I'm not a huge fan of J.J. Abrams' work. I love The Force Awakens. I think he did a great job with that. But I'm afraid he's going to do the J.J. Abrams thing and not explain anything. Leave it off with a cliffhanger. And then it's going to be like, yeah, you'll get the answers in 10 years.
Why is everybody doing a Moffat all of a sudden? Like, is that a hip thing to do? You want to see something really telling about J.J. Abrams? Watch his TED Talk about filmmaking. Mm-hmm. He has this thing called the Mystery Box.
Oh, God.
And he says, that is more interesting to me than explaining anything. Basically.
What's the Mystery Box? What do you mean?
The Mystery Box is it's a symbol of setting up a mystery in movies and television and whatnot, and then basically having people try to figure it out. He says that idea is more interesting to me.
And then ever revealing it then?
That is
basically.
That's a stupid idea because
who trained him to be that way?
I have no idea.
No way.
That's stupid. That really is a stupid idea because you leave stuff unresolved and nobody knows what the hell you're doing.
You got to watch the whole thing. It's like I can't do the whole thing justice saying it here, but if from what I've seen of it, it's that is him to a T. That mystery box idea, that is art imitating the artist.
That's why Cloverfield's the way it is.
Exactly. That's why Lost is the way it is. That's why Fringe was the way it was. That's why, like you just said, Cloverfield is the way it is. That's why he did that thing with Star Trek where he was like, "It's not Khan." You know,
But it was though.
It was exactly.
Right.
So and his first movie, Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
They were like, "What is the rabbit's foot?" To this day, has never been answered.
Honestly, half of those I don't think he can personally answer. I just think he wrote it down.
I think you're right, Vaughn. I don't think he comes up with the answers. I think he purposely makes questions, and then he does that idea of, well, you can interpret it the way you want, and that works for some things, but it's like,
no,
I was
raised and I learned there's beginning, middle, and end, and you explain everything.
Yeah.
If you want to leave stuff out there, okay, but eventually you explain everything. Eventually. You don't want to lose your audience, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's more psychological with him than these choices, because it almost reminds me of the why question. Why you do this, and then you chain off why this happening, you answer it, then why this, your answer, then another answer will come up, and then you ask why. It's kind of, he must have gotten it like either from looking at somebody, psychological, or Socrates or Plato or one of these philosophers he implemented into the mystery box idea.
Well, let me explain to you why that will never work ever. That's the equivalent of, we've seen all these trailers with Avengers Infinity War, right?
Yeah.
That's the equivalent of seeing all these trailers and they never release the movie. Just imagine if after all this build-up, all of a sudden the day comes out and it's supposed to be out, the movie doesn't come out. Just think about this weird nightmare scenario, right?
Right.
People freak out. They ask what's happening. No answers. Weeks go by, months go by. People lose their shit. Okay? So in other words, that's an analogy of not like following up, not following through. Like you make your fans have a freaking heart attack. Just like if we want a resolution to our favorite show and we don't get it, we freaking lose our shit.
Exactly.
So that's exactly what you're doing. You're hurting or you're killing your fans by not giving them. That's like not revealing the movie. So not letting them see the movie. So you have to, even if you don't like to, you have to resolve shit. Because then you lose your audience, and then ratings go down, and then they're done.
I think it's more simple than that. I just think that he's lazy and don't want to do the work behind getting the answer. He just put it in because it sounds good at the time.
Well, the scary thing about it too is, I don't know if you were done, Vaughn. I apologize.
No, go ahead.
The scary thing about it is that the few times he actually has given answers to people, they're just not good.
Or the Lost thing?
Well,
people don't like that shit at all.
Well, that, and I was thinking of mainly when he finally was like, "This is what Clover is." It was like, "Oh, Clover's a monster." Yeah, we got that. Like, but what is it? And he was like, "Oh, it's a species that lived on Earth thousands of years ago."
Oh, good.
Okay. Why is it doing this? Oh, yeah, it has separation anxiety.
The why question, you can change that with him and say, why? Why is this monster like this?
And then he's like, there's this thing that creates distortions in time that's like ripples, and it could affect the past and the present and the future in different universes. And
which is another interesting thing. We can talk about that in another cast. I don't know if you want me to bring it up now, but they basically said why the movie was released on Netflix.
Yeah, I saw that. Elaborate.
They said because they didn't think it was going to do well in the main theaters.
Yeah.
Oh.
They were like, we don't think this is going to do well.
Yeah. But guess what? Let me tell you something. Even though it probably was a success on Netflix.
Oh, automatically.
People people lost their shit and then wanted to watch
Netflix
it.
paid them $50 million for it.
And they probably made 100.
Mm-hmm.
They probably did, honestly.
So now he has and this is why I really don't like the Cloverfield paradox. I finally come to the conclusion about why I don't like it. Other than the monster stuff, they now have this out that anything that doesn't make sense, blame it on the paradox.
Well, see, that's why I don't like that either now. They changed everything around.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Scott?
Nothing.
See, my thing I'm really worried about, not even the next one, right? I'm really scared about the Cloverfield movie with Daisy Ridley and the whole heaven and hell and time travel.
Oh God! Why did it have to?
Let me tell you something about
Freaking
that.
out with that. Freaking out, literally, with that.
Let me tell you something about that, right? And I don't know, I could be wrong, but basically what I've seen from the marketing, I watched this video that did a very in-depth analysis, and I'm starting to put the pieces together. I think whatever is in that movie is the reason for every single Cloverfield movie.
This,
like
the fifth,
yes,
fifth one?
like the paradox was just the tip of the iceberg. Because I can go into it in another cast, or if you want me to do it here, I can. But
well, we got a minute, so we're gonna have to create another cast.
Yeah, I have a very funny feeling that's the point of all of this.
All right, let's get out of here. We're gonna continue from the Star Wars talking to Cloverfield in the next cast. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Vaughn. Thank you, Scott. Hello, Scott. Bye, Scott. Ha. And then we'll be back. Take care. Bye for now.